Ask all the questions you'd like to ask. I'm at your service.
I'm surprised that Colio, even if he was angry at Jones, was not more grateful for his generosity.
I don't know anything about this. I can't tell you anything.
What do these gifts from Jones hide? Why did he want to assure the future of Colio and his daughter?
I don't know anything about this. I'm sorry.
Well, this is very impressive. But tell me, what sort of relations did Lorenzo maintain with Jones?
Walter had a lot of respect for Mr. Battaglieri when they first met. Lorenzo Battaglieri has talent, and Walter knew how to recognize and reward talented people.
What did Lorenzo do after having received orders to continue the construction from Jones?
Well, Mr. Battaglieri has an artistic temperament and is slightly whimsical. But he is also a servile and obedient man. He never dared to question an order from Walter Jones.
I wonder what Lorenzo did after receiving new orders from Walter Jones asking him to stop the construction.
Lorenzo never questioned an order from Walter Jones. I can confirm that, Inspector.
Sorry, but I understand nothing about architecture. I would like to have some things in this sketchbook explained.
I believe you should ask that question to the interested party, Inspector.
In this document, a trial against Diva Company is evoked. What is it all about exactly?
Well, it's a bit too complex to explain. Take this, read it. You'll waste less time this way.
This menu seems utterly appetizing. Tell me, what are we eating today?
I don't know anything. To my deep regret, the chief French cook left us. What a rare pearl. An artist.
This tower on this wild island, far from everything. Isn't it madness?
That's true, but this brochure was useless. I told Walter that it was very expensive, considering the use it was put to.
What luxury. For some, the world is all roses. But where did the staff go? I don't see them.
There's no place for this document anymore, as I was obliged to fire the staff of the tower. It's become a little surrealist, don't you think?
What happened to the maintenance staff of the tower after that?
Back to their homes, probably. All these people were deprived of their jobs by the health and safety inspectors from Salé, and they were bribed by Madiva.
A hotel of this size, deprived of all its staff. It's a darn problem, I'd say.
I cannot tell you, Inspector, but sometimes one has no choice. I paid the fine and the outstanding balance of all the employees, and I took legal action against Madiva. One day they'll pay for all their malpractice and corruption.
I don't understand why Walter Jones continued to construct the tower after this verdict.
Walter Jones wasn't born yesterday. He wasn't going to let himself be intimidated by these swindlers.
Walter Jones was cheated well and good. But did he appeal this judgment?
It was me who handled this case. I can prove that the judge held a share in the Madiva agency, and that the verdict he gave is medieval. That's why we filed an appeal at the International High Court of Justice, and we assure victory.
Jones was not the type to take a verdict like this lying down. What's the status of the appeal?
Judge Erickson, who presides over the Fifth Chamber of the Court of Justice, is an old friend and an eminent jurist. He will certainly return a verdict in our favor.
Walter Jones gave this to Baina, didn't he? What were the bonds that connected them?
I knew that he wanted to give the diamond to Baina Jumbo. She hated him deeply since the accident. She came out of it shaken and mute. But like everyone else, she was attracted by the charismatic personality of Walter Jones.
Can you tell me more about the circumstances of this accident, please?
It was a little less than 3 years ago. Walter Jones was with Baina walking around in the rocks. They must have fallen several meters. I don't know the details of that deplorable accident.
So, what was Lorenzo Battaglieri doing in the rocks near the Tortoise Belvedere last night?
I don't know what Battaglieri was doing there, but I can verify that I first saw him take the restaurant elevator with Walter when he left just after dinner. When I was working in my office, I saw Lorenzo Battaglieri hurriedly leave the Belvedere and come back to the tower after Walter's fall. Finally, as I already told you, I ran into him at the foot of the tower when I was running to help Walter. I think that Lorenzo Battaglieri did not see me. He seemed really distraught. This man certainly knows a lot about this, Inspector. I think I already pointed out before that he is madly in love with Baina. I wouldn't be surprised if he were her accomplice. And the murder seems to me to have been very well organized.
According to you, how could Baina have lost pearls from her necklace?
Walter was a brave man. He defended himself and hung on to Baina's necklace, trying to... Good God, what a horror.
Who is the rightful owner of this piece of chain?
It's gold. It could have been Walter's.
It seems that Baina accompanied Walter Jones to the Tortoise Belvedere. She would have been careful not to leave her footprints, as she had deliberately planned to kill Jones.
She's really untamed, with a limited and primitive mind. She could not have thought of everything. I wouldn't be surprised that Baina didn't know about the existence of fingerprints.
For what reason could Baina and Walter Jones have quarreled?
I believe that Baina wanted to get rid of Walter. She had planned it well.
The wheelchairs seemed to be acting strangely before skidding and falling from the cliff. Could it have been malfunctioning? Could a false maneuver have been the reason for the fall?
I'm afraid I can't help you, Inspector. Walter had the most sophisticated and costly wheelchair in the world. A technological marvel to avoid this kind of trouble.
What were you doing at the Tortoise Belvedere last night?
I already told you, Inspector. I saw Walter fall over the edge, and I ran to help him. I hoped he was not too hurt. Then I phoned your police colleagues about Walter Jones's death.
Did Walter Jones die following the first impact on hitting the rocks, or from what happened to him when he fell further down?
It's strange indeed. The storm was violent that night. The wind must have made the body roll further down. What I can confirm is that Walter was lying close to the rocks. He was dead, and the weather was so bad that it was impossible for me to hoist his body. I could do nothing more for poor Walter.
Do you know how Baina broke one of her fingernails?
I never hung out in boarding schools for girls, Inspector. I suggest you ask her father. That old savage will certainly know a lot on this subject.
What is this pyramid, then?
It's an old local monument called Hawita. It's the place of the accident where Baina, Jumhu, and Walter both fell. A tragic accident that mutilated both of them. After this accident, Baina's feelings for Walter Jones were torn between love and hate. She came to see him every evening to accompany him on his daily walk on the paths of the island, but with everything that has just happened, I wonder if she'd not been preparing to revenge herself.
Lorenzo doesn't have faith in you.
Lorenzo is no doubt frustrated to see himself removed from his responsibilities.
So, tell me a little about Billy.
Billy's a complex and tortured creature, Inspector. He's a pathological gambler. He drinks too much, for sure, but he's intelligent and spirited.
I would love it if you could tell me a little about Sonia.
Sonia is a young woman with a lot of charm, Inspector. I admire her intelligence and her independent spirit. Even Walter himself couldn't get her to bend. And moreover, she is very beautiful, which doesn't spoil anything.
What do you think of Colio?
Oh, he's an old clown. He wants to pass himself off as a sage and play at being a ritual chief, but nobody's fooled. I'll tell you what I really think. Colio is an opportunist and a nuisance, Inspector.
What do you know about Lorenzo Battaglieri?
Well, this architect has definitely lost my trust. And I ought to say that he no longer enjoyed great standing with Walter Jones. We discovered important defects in the construction of the tower. Lorenzo's incompetent to the point of dishonesty, Inspector.
What do you think of Baina?
Oh, that native girl's a real beauty, Inspector. No doubt about it. Her youthful charm really made poor Walter's head spin.
And how did Baina make his head spin?
Sometimes one seeks youth as one gets on in age. Baina was fresh and pure. And Walter Jones was in the habit of getting everything he wanted from life.
I would like to know more about Martin.
Martin Abruzzi is the kind of publisher they don't make anymore, Inspector. I love his editorial choices, and I'm a personal fan of the works he publishes. And, I might add, at a personal level, he's a delightful and charming man.
What can you tell me about Clara?
I hold Claire in great esteem, Inspector. It's amazing, but she always makes me think of Anna Jones, the deceased wife of Walter. The same kindness, the same finesse.
Did you see anyone at the Tortoise Belvedere last evening, or did anything at all catch your attention?
Yes, I was returning to the tower to settle an urgent case that Walter had given me when I saw Baina from afar. She's a young native who pretends to be an idiot. I also saw Lorenzo, who has an unrequited love for her. This woman is a devil. She's made him lose his head.
Do you know anything about medicine?
No, I don't know anything about medicine.
In that case, you can't help me. Interesting.